Welcome to Creative Power, a podcast designed to help you claim the full spectrum of your creative potential. I'm Camilla Fellis-Arnold, and I'm passionate about discussing how we change the face of both the creative industries and how we interact with creativity itself, so that it nourishes our soul and helps us express ourselves with alignment, flow, and authenticity. Let's get started. Welcome to Creative Power. For the last few weeks, we've been on this journey since the spring equinox, as we've seen new ideas popping up to the surface. And I've been talking about how we can deal with the feelings of imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs that can come up alongside these new ideas. The reason I've been doing this is because in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be reaching Beltane, the May Day festival on the 1st of May. It's that midway point between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. And it's when we move into fire in terms of the Chinese 5 elements. Now, Emily Tuck will be joining us once again to have a more in-depth discussion about how moving into Beltane will affect our creativity. But in a very general sense, it's when we'll be getting into real action. Summer is coming, we're all pumped up and raring to go, there's lots of forward momentum. We want to clear out any obstacles or potential self-sabotage before we get there though, so that we're free to go full steam ahead, knowing that we won't encounter any icebergs that could sink our efforts. So previously, we've been talking about the inner child and play a lot. Last episode, we explored how meditation and yoga can open the creative mind. And today, well, it's going to get a bit serious because I'm going to touch on something that massively affects creatives across the board. It's ingrained into our psyche, and it's also a bit of a pain point for most of us. I'm talking about the starving artist and suffering artist mentalities. They are like our Achilles heel in the creative industry. It's what keeps us playing small and stands in the way of us claiming our true creative power as individuals. So let's unpack what I mean by starving or suffering artist mentality. The starving artist mentality is the perception that we'll never get rewarded fairly for our work, that we'll always be poor and unseen. The carrot that dangles and keeps us in hope is the dream that one day we will be noticed. But deep down, there's this expectation that it won't happen, that success doesn't happen to people like us. This path is well trodden. Look to the likes of Vincent van Gogh. He sold but one painting in his lifetime. Now his paintings sell for millions the world over. And like many artists and creatives, that's seemingly all we can hope for, right? This idea that maybe in death we will be seen for our talent. Or what about the designers fighting for a crumb? I know what it's like because I spent years in the freelance trenches. And with the rise of places like Fiverr, which if you don't know, it literally does what it says on the tin, you can get work done for as little as $5. How can we compete regardless of our talent? All of this undercuts our sense of self-worth. But wait, occasionally we'll get to see someone who makes it. And this gives us a renewed sense of hope. Like the recent massive hit Squid Game. It was originally conceived in 2008 and then it was released on Netflix in 2021 and became their most watched series. It won critical acclaim and had 1.6 billion hours. That's billion hours viewed within the first 4 weeks. Amazing, right? Now, at the time, I remember seeing lots of posts from creatives telling other creatives not to give up. That 13 years later, and with a whole lot of self-belief and patience, the creator of Squid Game had made it. Like, there's hope for the rest of us. But once again, filling us with this false sense of hope that one day we might be that lucky. But what it said to me is, wow, what a shame that it took so long to get picked up and seen by the world for what it was. What a shame that it took so long for the creator to be recognised and rewarded for their incredible talent. What a shame that the creative industries are engineered in such a way that it is so hard for genuine talent and really incredible ideas to be heard above the rest of the noise. The industry has been rigged to ensure the creator themselves doesn't win unless society wants them to win. Because everyone loves a hero after all, when it suits them. This leads to the other mentality that perpetuates, the suffering artist mentality, that we must metaphorically bleed for our work. Because while society loves a hero, it also loves a martyr. And so many creatives happily oblige, dying at the altar of their creative works for free over and over again. But seriously, folks, we're not Jesus. I'm serious here, we are not Jesus. We live in a world where you are allowed to be paid for your work. And creativity is not a gift from the gods that you are born with or you're not. It's a set of synapses firing in the brain that we interpret in all kinds of weird and wonderful ways. So you may have seen some of yourself in all of this. Maybe you've lowered your rates to peanuts, or you've worked for the promise of exposure and repeat work. Maybe you've written until your fingers bled, or you've channeled that crappy memory into your painting so many times that your heart feels raw. Maybe you're utterly spent, exhausted at struggling to pay your bills, and you feel like you are always begging for a sale. A sale of which, by the way, grants you pennies from a print-on-demand supplier. Maybe you're beginning to wonder if your family is right when they tell you to go get a real job. Maybe you feel like throwing in the towel because you know your work is better than what is out there if only people could see it. Maybe you're so sick of pouring your soul into your work for no reward that you've started churning out anything because being a yes person to your clients just to make some cash is all you can do, but you feel numb on the inside. Maybe you have a love-hate relationship with your creativity now. Maybe you hate your creativity now and wish you weren't so gifted. Maybe you're just tired of people asking how it's going and if you've sold any books recently. Whatever it is, some part of the starving and suffering artist mentalities resonates with your soul. It's an intrinsic part of our makeup as creatives, but it can seem like we're fighting against the tide. And to be honest, if we try to eliminate the starving or suffering artist mentality in one fell swoop, then we will be fighting against a massive tide, because it's so ingrained within both us as creators and the rest of society who thinks that's the way this shit works. It's also a massive block that stands in our way of achieving our potential, our creative potential, and allowing our creativity to really flow. Because while we hold these beliefs that we'll never be paid or recognised for our work, we sabotage ourselves. That could look like letting a project you know is incredible stay on the back burner so you don't have to face your deep-seated limiting beliefs. It could look like never getting that book written. It could look like never starting the book in the first place, but always dreaming that you will do it one day. Now, I know this issue is a big one, and it isn't going to be solved overnight. But I had a conversation with a local creative recently, and I was telling them about the change that I wanted to see in the creative industries around eliminating the starving, suffering artist mentalities. And I got very, very passionate. And then I finished my monologue with, I don't know how to actually do it yet though. Rightly so, because it is a massive issue to tackle if I want to make a big change all at once. His response, though, changed everything when he said, but you are already doing it, one person at a time. And there's the crux of this whole episode. The concept of the starving artist and the suffering artist sucks. And it's a wound we all carry within us. And maybe, yes, it's a big ask to change an entire mentality overnight for everyone. But we can work on it for ourselves and change our own mindset. We can heal the wound in ourselves. We can reframe suffering artist to healed artist, contented artist, happy artist, flowing artist. We can reframe starving artist to satiated artist, abundant artist, wealthy artist, rich artist, successful artist. When we no longer hold that wound in ourselves, we carry ourselves differently in the world. We set the terms for how people interact with us, not the other way around. We can, yes we can, make our own success and change the industry one step at a time, one individual at a time, because our individual actions have a ripple effect that goes out towards other people. We can inspire them to heal this wound in themselves. They'll inspire others, and so it goes on and outwards. So how can we reframe these damaging, limiting mentalities and heal them in ourselves? This is where developing a strong sense of your own internal authority is crucial. Everyone has an opinion on who you are and what you do. Everyone, period. But the one person that gets to see all of it and spends the most time with you is, well, it's you. To state the bleeding obvious, it is you. So if you're the only person who is ever going to see everything you ever do, then the only person you need to listen to is yourself, because everyone else just sees your highlight reel and judges based off that. They haven't seen how many hours you've poured into that painting, or how much money you spent on that course to get your degree. They haven't seen the blood, sweat and tears behind your creativity. Because let's face it, a lot of people who don't see themselves as creative think that creativity is some magical wand we wave and boom, there's a winning idea. But we know. You and I, we know. Creativity just doesn't flow like that. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, your cat could come up with a better idea than you. Sometimes, no matter how long you work at a design, your technophobic grandma would still be able to make it look better. True story. So why let other people who don't know how this works dictate your creative life? Ditch that weight of their opinions and judgments and immediately turn inwards. And when I say turn inwards, I mean go deep. Don't listen to your ego that also likes you to play small because it's comfortable there. Get really quiet. What does your soul say? Skip back one episode and listen to my thoughts on meditation and yoga to help you really open up to this inner voice of yours that's been quiet for so long. I promise. What we discussed in that episode isn't about how you need to sit for 5 hours cross-legged chanting Om. In episode 20, the previous episode, I discussed my own meditative practice, and honestly, it's a journey into Wonderland on a daily basis, no joke. So step 1 in ditching the starving, suffering artist mentalities is to tune in to your intuition and ditch the noise of everyone else. Step 2 is looking at what memories and limiting beliefs are holding you back. Was there a time someone made a comment that you were charging too much, so you reduced your rates? Maybe someone laughed at your dream of being a dancer and said you'd never make it because insert 50 dumb reasons here. Remember, these people are projecting their fears onto you. What they said wasn't really about you at all. But you stepping out in that big way with your big dream and expensive to them rate made them feel uncomfortable. So they asked you to go back into the tiny box to make them feel better. And you did it. So go back to those memories and work with them. How can you heal those wounds? There's plenty of ways you can do that, such as journaling. You can see episode 14 if you want to know how to use journal therapy in a really powerful way. There's also things like EFT tapping and other subconscious tools you can use. In episode 16, Emily Tuck shared with us a really powerful tool called Emotional Stress Release, ESR, which is surprisingly simple to do, but it makes a massive difference when you use it while thinking about those memories, and it dissipates the stress that they've caused. And I'll link to the ESR handout that she kindly gave us in the show notes so you can see just how easy it is to use. The other thing you can do is work with a therapist or holistic practitioner like Emily, or a coach like myself to walk you through this. Because here's the thing. The world told us the creative path is a lonely one. I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be. You are allowed to get help and be supported. You are allowed to charge your worth. You are allowed to charge whatever you want. You are allowed to be successful. You are allowed to be seen, heard, and recognized for your incredible talent. You are allowed to be confident about your skills and abilities. You are allowed to be a happy, creative being. You are allowed to have a rich and abundant life off the back of your creativity. But you need to believe that you are allowed to have it first of all. After that, all things are possible. I'll be honest, this mindset shift doesn't happen overnight. Uncovering all the ways in which you think you have to be a poor, suffering creative person takes time. And yes, it is painful working through it. I know, because it took me months to even feel ready to face my own stuff. And then it took more months chipping away at all of those limiting beliefs. But as you do chip away, you regain a sense of flow. You activate new levels of creative power in yourself. You find your true voice and realize that you're not afraid to use it loud and proud. And if my words today help just one person, if you listening to this resonate with what I've said, and it spurs you to start reclaiming your title as a wealthy, successful creator, then I consider that a job well done. Because like I said earlier, change starts one person at a time. So be the change. Look within. Listen to yourself. Because you really do have all the answers if you'd allow yourself to hear them. And if it feels scary to look at it on your own, tell me. I've been there, I know. Send me a message on SpeakPipe with your questions or topics you'd like me to discuss, and I can do a future episode on them. Or, if you're really ready to ditch the starving artist once and for all, then let's work together. I'll leave links in the show notes on how we can get started. The final step I want to mention today towards getting rid of the starving, suffering artist mentality is this. Tell your friends. The more people working on healing this to create something new for us as creators, the quicker things will change. So share this episode with your creative friends. Let's ditch the starving artist mentality once and for all, and see what kind of creatives we can really be. Thanks for listening to Creative Power today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and consider leaving a review. To find out more ways you can connect or work with me, please visit www.camillafellisarnold.com/creative power.